Making exceptions, the ends justify the means. The UN Declaration of Human Rights, the US Bill of Rights, the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, each of these documents and those like them are not a set of rules to play by. They are reminders to us as living, breathing human beings coexisting together of what we all hold to be foundational for a society to be compassionate, free, just, and peaceful. These documents touch on a natural understanding of how the universe works and what is required for life to evolve and grow. Today, though, we are being confronted with the narrative that respecting the inherent dignity and rights of each individual must be set aside for, quote, the greater good. An individual is nothing compared to the amorphous collective. The collective knows best, and we must fall in line with the collective. Now, you as an individual are no longer an equal who deserves respect, but you are a subservient to the collective. Now you are no longer permitted to be conscientious, to be a dissenter, to hold a different view and freely express it. Now you are no longer permitted to be your authentic self. You can be commercially acceptable authentic, but not authentic. You can be censorship approved authentic, but not authentic. You can be you just so long as your you is okay with the collective. And just who leads the collective? The ends justify the means, the collective says. That statement has wormed its way into the subconscious minds of so many today. It has given permission to certain individuals who feel they are righteous to shame, blame, castigate, deride, ostracize, verbally and physically abuse any person who is a problem to the collective's vision of right. It is the excuse of every person who craves an outlet for their frustration, anger, dismay, pain, etc. Give them a target and they will lash out in the guise of righteous indignation. What is the basis for this choice? To accept that the ends justify the means. Is it based on respect? Is it based on love? Is it based on science? Yes, I can respect you, only if you do as I say, otherwise you don't deserve my respect. Yes, I can love you, only if you do as I say and believe what I believe. Yes, it is based on the science that I was told is the right science because official experts have said so, and it appears to be very complicated and difficult to figure out, so it must be very intelligent. Too intelligent for just anyone to understand, which is why we shouldn't question the brilliant experts who are just trying to help us all out. How can you not understand this? Besides, it perfectly matches my viewpoints of the world, so anyone who disputes it is obviously an idiot. Throw away holiness and wisdom, and people will be 100 times happier. Throw away morality and justice, and people will do the right thing. That is a quote from the Tao. When do the ends justify the means? Do you know? Who are the individuals who are deemed to be superior enough to be able to breach the respect for the inherent rights and dignity of all through manipulation, coercion, force, abuse, defamation, degradation, torture, and censorship? Does any one individual stand in a position whereby any of their violations of the inherent dignity of another is justified? Is moral or righteous indignation a valid justification for treating any other human or living being with disdain? Whoever relies on the Tao in governing men doesn't try to force issues or defeat enemies by force of arms. For every force, there is a counterforce. Violence, even well intentioned, always rebounds upon itself. The master does his job and then stops. He understands that the universe is forever out of control and that trying to dominate events goes against the current of the Tao. Because he believes in himself, he doesn't try to convince others. Because he is content with himself, he doesn't need others' approval. Because he accepts himself, the whole world accepts him. The Tao. The belief in superiority and inferiority runs subtly deep within the human psyche. None of us are either. All we are is different on the surface. We are unique expressions of life. That is all. We each teach each other something and we learn something from each other. We are each microcosms brushing up against one another, coalescing, melding, sparking, dancing. The actions of force, the desire for control, stem from fear, fear of the unknown, fear of being groundless. Yet, where does groundlessness and the pregnant unknown exist? In the present, where nothing exists and everything exists, where labels and words can dance around freely with no fixed inherent meaning, where everything is dynamic in constant flux, where we cannot hold on to anything and certainty is shattered. That space of pregnant possibility demands that we be fully awake in ourselves to engage. In this world, we have put in place illusory control systems like regulatory boards, licensing associations, governing bodies, banking systems, etc. Systems that appear to be safe and predictable so that we can disengage from a direct relationship with life as it is and simply coast along, fulfilling false pleasures that are only the side of the knife of pain. In this world, we deceive ourselves into believing assumptions in exchange for the abdication of our own individual sovereignty. We let the power and energy of our microcosms be harnessed and harvested by those who are ready and willing to take it. If the systems go away, will it all be chaos? This is the implanted fear. People cannot be trusted, therefore, we need systems. Yet, certain people run the systems. Can they be trusted? Are they the special ones? The systems are illusory. The control and safety images they project are phantoms. To accept anything blindly on assumption is to not see it. Systems have no inherent values. They are what the people make of them. Open up to the individual and you will see what is truly there. Refuse to see the individual in exchange for belief in the intangible collective, and you will always be fooled. People imagine that a wild forest is a dark, unruly, chaotic place full of fighting and strife and competition. A manicured, man made garden is much more preferable. Yet, in reality, the forest is a beautiful, synchronized dance of nature, of light and dark, of polarities, of exchange, of becoming and unbecoming. It is what we are. The manicured garden is lifeless in comparison, so controlled that it needs to be fed artificial fertilizers, so managed that nothing in it can thrive and evolve. It just survives as people try to keep it exactly the way they want it. Nothing out of place, nothing unwieldy. We forget that each and every being has meaning and is vital to the entire dance of life, even those we don't understand and deem are only destructive. What each being calls to our own individual attention points to something within us. Maybe seeing the destructiveness of another compels me to be the opposite. Do not the insects eating a plant encourage the plant to adapt, evolve, change its genetic expression, and pass on new information to the seeds it will bear? Do not the insects, when they die, decompose and go back into the earth to become food for the plants? There will be challenges and difficulties in life. We are microcosms colliding with each other. Some parts of us will spark and explode when interacting. It is in how we choose to respond that decides whether we ourselves grow or decompose. And it is important to understand that neither option is better or worse. If we attempt to pretend that we can control this, which is an attempt to control life, we only end up compounding the pressure and destroy ourselves, the essence of who we are. When we go down the road of the ends justify the means, then the road we imagine we are paving to a better world, to heaven, leads only to hell. A forced utopia is not a utopia at all. It was not freely chosen. I may wish for certain things to manifest, but I would be violating free will and the respect for life if I were to force another to comply with my dreams. All I can do is express myself. That is my only job. My presence, your presence, as we discover our pathway through life, is all that is needed from us. Live your life. Be the changes you wish to see. If you really follow this, there can be no ends justifying the means. Because if you were to start acting out of alignment with the changes you wish to see in the world, you are no longer those changes, but the antithesis of them. Do you want to improve the world? This is from the Tao. I don't think it can be done. The world is sacred. It can't be improved. If you tamper with it, you'll ruin it. If you treat it like an object, you'll lose it. There is a time for being ahead, a time for being behind, a time for being in motion, a time for being at rest, a time for being vigorous, a time for being exhausted, a time for being safe, a time for being in danger. The master sees things as they are without trying to control them. She lets them go their own way and resides at the center of the circle. And I'm going to finish off with a quote from the Bodhisattva's Way of Life by Shantideva. Where would I find enough leather to cover the entire surface of the earth? But with leather soles beneath my feet, it's as if the whole world has been covered. Thank you for listening.